All right. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well. Oh, oops. Okay. So we're going to be looking at the counseling process. They call it coach instead of counseling. And this is going to be pretty short today. We are extrapolating again some concepts um, from this chapter and literally just the story of client and coach. There's a lot of good stuff in here. I'm not going to cover everything. You guys were able to pick up on stuff as you read also, I hope. I put this picture here because I really, there, as you look at the slow progress, and this counseling went on for like 30 years. I'm like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding, or almost 30 years, and was still going on when she quit writing about it. Um, there is almost a hopelessness in my mind, almost like, wow, this is sad. Like very, very, very little change over a very, very, very long period of time. I have not once seen anything about forgiving your ancestors, parents, grandparents, and I really believe that that is incredibly key. That we've got to forgive. We've got to ask the Lord to forgive us for unforgiveness and judgments that we've made, potentially resentment, bitterness, even hatred. Um, and to me, that's a lifelong process for sure. And new things come up that we got to ask the Lord to forgive us for. And we are wounded in ways that we've got to continue to forgive others for. That's a whole other topic, another time. But anyway, I really feel like that this on our knees before the Lord, with bowed hearts and bowed minds and bowed spirits and bowed bodies, that we ask the Lord for His help and His strength in this process, and that He will give it to us. So, okay, so they use the word coaching instead of counseling, or coach instead of counselor. It's fine, whatever. That's just the Bowenian way, and that's okay. A little different for me, but it's for me, it's counselor, 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 but okay, coach. So I'll no telling what I'll say, right? Throughout this talk, I may say coach, I may say counselor, I may go back and forth, but we're talking about the person that is doing the helping, the working with them. So we've talked about, okay, so in terms of the therapeutic goal, we've talked about how our anxiety increases in relationships with conflict, and how that all relationships have some level of anxiety. And then that there is this emotional reactivity as a result of our anxiety, which can cause us to cut off or to fuse. Um, Obviously, the extremes being the unhealthy. My dogs are going nuts, so pardon me. All right. Um, so um, keep in mind these terms, that we are dealing with things like triangulation. Hope you're looking for that in your own families, in your own immediate family, as well as your families of origin. We're looking for those that are over-functioning and under-functioning. We're talking about cutoff and emotional reactivity. I should have said cutoff slash fusion, right? Because those are on a continuum. On one extreme, we cut off, and the other extreme, there is fusion. And understand that each of us have a tendency towards one or the other, right? So when anxiety happens, and both the author, which is the coach, and the client both had a tendency to, in response to anxiety, which produced an emotional reactivity, their response was to fuse, to try to leech or latch on or cling to. Clinginess, we hear sometimes saying, or you're smothering me, that kind of thing, and not to cut off. But for you, it might be a tendency to cut off. You know what? Fine, just forget it. I'll just put up an emotional wall. Okay, so it's interesting here in this the way and I appreciate the coach's uh, self-disclosure and willingness to talk about her own life. She is also working on the same kinds of things that the client is working on, and talks about that back and forth freely. which I think is kind of cool. Um, and so in the midst of that too, she's being very aware, and which is a good self-awareness tool when you're counseling, to make sure that she has appropriate boundaries and that she's, your stuff is your stuff and my stuff is my stuff, and not getting engulfed or mixed up or enmeshed or uh, fused with her client. In Bowenian therapy, the relationship is important. I mean, this bullet here of emphasis not on the relationship doesn't mean the relationships are not important, because it is, and they would say it is, but the relationship is on the client and their family dynamics and their tendency to fuse or not fuse or cut off or whatever their tendency is, the anxiety that they're dealing with, whatever it may be. Um, then so we want to have this separateness and autonomy, at the same time having empathy and connection as we're working with people, and that's demonstrated by the coach here in this process. Um, I love the little couch thing. I know, I don't know if anywhere that's used anymore. I don't think so. Maybe some psychodynamic therapist uses that, but not really happening anymore. But nonetheless, it's cute. Um, so 30 years, we talked about that. There, I don't know if you noticed how she was very non-directive in her style. She said something, I was reading, and it was like there was something that she the client didn't want to work on, and she said, okay, I'm not gonna push it. I'm not gonna work on it. Wait until she's ready to work on it. I have a tendency to be a little more directive. I would probably bring it up and say, okay, let's go back to this thing. And I think it was her weight. Let's go back to this weight issue and kind of talk about that and what that's all about. Um, so that's just an observation. She didn't actually use the term transference and countertransference from Freud, but she talked about it in terms of not letting her issues get involved with the client, or letting the client trigger things in her that would cause her to react to the client, which was basically transference and countertransference. Um, hmm. I think that's my last slide. It is. I know. I told you this was going to be short. I'm like, wow. I don't think I realized it was going to be that short, but yeah, that's it. So, anyway, good stuff. Appreciate you guys. I hope y'all are doing well. Contact me if you have questions. God bless. Thanks, and goodbye. Good night.